Teachers of Reddit, what was the most BS answer you've seen on a test, quiz, essay, etc.? Question, describe the chemical difference between H2O and CO2. Answer, H2O is hot water, because the H stands for hot. CO2 is cold water, because the C stands for cold. The children are the future. Well, my shower has a lot of CO2 then. Okay, Hitler. Not a teacher, but he was one of the students I graduated with. Essay prompt, write an essay on something that isn't an art, but treat it like an art. Should take 1 page. X, the art of tying your shoes. His essay, the art of writing a short essay. The art of writing a very short essay is quite simple. Use this as an example. Teacher's response, I don't know if this is brilliant or lazy. I don't know if this is brilliant or lazy. If you have to ask, it's art. The laziest people are usually the brightest, just like Bill Gates said, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. I once used the wrong formula on a physics question, but also ducked up the calculation and ended up with the correct answer. The professor asked to see me after class to tell me that at first he had marked it wrong because he thought I had peeked and wrote someone else's answer at the end of my gibberish, but once he worked through my work realized how I got the answer I did. He gave me half credit because he had never seen it happen before, so there's that. Nice. My friend in high school was once totally stumped on a geometry question, so he just wrote 420 in really big writing, which turned out to be the correct answer. That one was tough to explain to the teacher. Look, Mr. Barnett, all I meant was you just need to burn one down. You know, lighten up a little. I just wanted a high grade. Not a teacher, but a former student. I went to a Catholic high school. Our Algebra 2 teacher was super religious and wanted to be a religion teacher. If you put Jesus as the answer to any question, he would give you half credit for being technically right because Jesus is the answer to everything. Half credit. Sounds more like an agnostic. Q. If a cross was 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, find the area covered by the cross. A. Jesus. With your question, it's not mathematically possible to find the answer though. So Jesus would be the only acceptable answer. Study for test. Get every question correct. Write Jesus next to every answer. Get 150%. Profit? Profit. Not a teacher, but I remember my friend's answer in a chemistry exam at school. Suggest a name for hydrocarbon. B. Paul. Q. If the highest elevation on a map is 1050 feet and the lowest elevation is 515 feet, what is the relief? A. That we don't have to do maps anymore. Ducking Larry. Edit. On the fossils quiz, I asked everyone to draw a dinosaur for extra credit and for my own amusement. Larry wrote, dinosaurs don't exist. They were put here by Satan to trick us. Then he drew a picture of Satan. Honorable mention goes to the guy who artfully rendered a dinosaur in 3D block letters because that class was full of assholes. I once asked for a signature of a family member and got a drawing of a paw. That kid is a real son of a bitch. Boy in my class tried to forge his parents' signature on his field trip form, but just wrote mom in fancy letters. When I have kids, I'm going to sign ducking everything as mom in fancy letters using a crayon. Hahaha, my kids already in primary school will absolutely steal this for the years to come. I'm going to sign my kids' papers as mom, and I'm a guy. It'll create even more confusion. Who signed this? My dad did. Shut Jimmy, you one stupid duck. Sad face. Jimmy later turned to drug abuse as an escape from the constant bullying as everyone thought he was one stupid duck. Since I'm grading tests as we speak, let me pull one from the stack. Q. Describe how glaciers were involved in the formation of the Great Lakes. A. Glaciers were involved with the Great Lakes by forming them. Gave a geography test a month ago, using the factors that affect climate. Explain why Resolute is cold and dry. Resolute is cold and dry because it doesn't get very hot and there isn't much precipitation. Technically accurate. Class. Environmental law. Question. What is NPDES? Students and SWEAR, an acronym. I gave him half credit for being a smartass, but it's actually an initialism. My first year teaching 9th grade English, I had my students write an essay that was basically an analysis of a novel 8 shows. One kid handed in an essay that was very obviously plagiarized, and the formatting looked familiar. I looked the book up on Wikipedia, and sure enough, he had just copied and pasted the first couple sections verbatim from the entry for Goodbye Mr. Chips. I wrote 100 really big on the top of the page, and then wrote a bunch of stuff on the bottom of the page about how mature his analysis was, and how hard he must have worked. I wrote turnover at the bottom of the page, and on the back of the paper I wrote just kidding really big, with an explanation of why his grade was actually a 0. When I handed the essays back, this kid got so excited that he had gotten such a good grade, and fooled his dumb shut teacher, that he didn't read the back, and handed it to a friend to show off. I knew his friend took the time to read the back when I heard, "You're a freaking idiot," from across the room. Friend's a college professor. Student once came to him after class with a multiple choice test that she'd failed. She points out to him erasure marks on the test that showed that on every question she missed, she had originally circled the correct answer, but then second guessed herself and erased it to circle an incorrect answer. The professor nodded, listening thoughtfully. He wrote an A at the top of the test, then he erased it, rewrote the F, and handed it back to her. A friend of mine is a high school English teacher, and once assigned his students a persuasive essay, take a stand on an issue, and write an essay supporting that stand, citing specific evidence. One student chose to do his on Stone Cold Steve Austin is the best wrestler who ever lived. Now, that's a dubious topic, but one could see how you could still attempt to write a good essay on that, citing his wild popularity, impact on the sport, etc. Nope, this kid basically spent a few pages rehashing his catchphrases. If anyone tries to mess with Stone Cold, he'll whoop their ass. The best though was the last line of the essay, which just closed with "Stone Cold Steve Austin is the best goddamn wrestler who ever lived, 'cause Stone Cold said so." A kid in one of my classes during high school wrote his persuasive essay on why Billy Mays was an American hero. He ended it with, "Billy Mays, he could sell electricity to the Amish, meat to a vegetarian, and a refrigerator to an Eskimo." Q. Why did Mao and his communist revolutionaries go through the mountains during the Long March? A. To avoid the mines of Moria. Why didn't Mao Zedong just ride the eagles to Mount Doom? A student was given a test that included a picture of a stalk of celery in a jar of water. The point was to discuss that water flows up the stalk to the leaves, blah blah blah. One student said, "I don't know, I did not learn about celery." That guy was probably majoring in carrots. I gave a pop quiz that just asked them to tell me something about the reading, and someone went into detail about the Macklemore concert they went to the night before. I love rolling the dice on if there would be a quiz on the reading the next day. One exam had a question on probability. It described a simple game involving a coin flip and asked, "What is the fair price you would charge your friend to play this game?" One student carefully calculated the correct value for the game's expectation value, $1.20. Then, he concluded, "The fair price I will charge my friend to play this game is $2, because I want to make a profit." That's not a BS answer. That kid's clearly actually thinking. Our French teacher loved our class, but we slacked too much. On one of my French quizzes, the teacher was angry because someone put the French word for grass as les grass. I had a class with a guy. I have no idea how he made it there. It was third level Spanish. He tried to talk about his dog as El Doggo. Damn, that was funny. I had a friend doing a media course in college. He had some bullshit essay that he had to write, and the topic was, "Is a computer a machine? Got beef and other mysteries." It was 2 pages long and concluded with the line, "If cows don't exist, then God does exist, which means cows do in fact exist, therefore a computer is not a machine." He actually passed the paper. During my last year of high school I took calculus. Our teacher was an insanely smart guy who knew almost anything. Unfortunately for him, it was last semester teaching at my school. Something about how he graded compared to the rest of the school and the board not liking it. I'll never know for sure. Anyway, as I was saying, he taught us more than just calculus, astronomy, finances, physics, and anything we were just curious about that day. He was a great guy and I enjoyed going to that class every day. He still had to give us quizzes and tests like any other teacher, but he didn't grade very well, mostly because he just didn't care. He knew we were learning what we were wanting to learn. and he was happy with that. For our final exam though, he gave us a 4-page exam with the most difficult math problems I had ever seen. Half the stuff we hadn't even covered. My entire class was in shock. Why in the hell would he do this to us? But then he gave us the slyest smile I had ever seen, paused for a moment as the entire class held their breath, and quietly said the most forgiving words. "If you don't know what you are doing, draw me the best hand turkey you can possibly draw." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I got an A in calculus on a hand turkey I worked on for an hour and a half. Can't imagine why the board would disapprove. Because it was an ugly drawing. I'm sure I'd fail. I can't draw a stick figure for the life of me.